All right, that was kind of loud too. Welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos, welcome back. If you have, my intention is unity and oneness. Happy first day of spring. I thought it'd be nice to be inside of this beautiful flower that I took a picture of. Um, I want to just go into a little flow with the guides. I've got about 15 minutes in my car, my office on wheels. My husband would call it my purse on wheels, but maybe a little bit of both. So happy equinox, spring equinox. And wow, I could go into a lot of different topics, but let me just see what the guides have to share for now. And then maybe I'll go into a little recap of some of the energies yet again later this weekend. So it's meant to be felt, not necessarily understood on a linear basis. And some of it will be linear, some of it will be multidimensional. So I'm just going to invite everybody to drop into their bodies, take a nice deep breath in and a nice exhale, noticing where you are in space, noticing how you feel right now, allowing the breath to come in easily through the lungs, the nose, into the skin, feeling nice and expansive and just kind of relaxing, going into the heart and just taking a moment to feel gratitude for this moment. Just gratitude for being alive. And in this space, in this time that we now call now, in this time we call now, in this space that we call now, within this time space reality, is a conundrum. There are many different people who have many different feelings, and it can put us in a sense of disorder, disharmony, and put us into a conundrum, one might say. I'm being called to play with that word a little bit. We are being invited to let go of the past disharmonies that we may have expressed, that have been expressed to us, that have been spread out over time, that have been expelled, that have been sent out into the ethers. We are being called to be the bridge in this now moment, allowing ourselves to unify past, present, and future in a unified space of presence, of omnipresence, of being the one presence that allows us to all feel the gift of presence, allows us all to feel the gift of being present with oneself. And we're playing with this a bit and slowing it down and a little bit more symmetrical presentation. For this could be often many different angles, if you will, this language or this way of playing with words. And we invite you to feel into your own sense of your own words. What words are you using? What words ring true to you? What words make you feel a more complete version of you? What is it that we are telling each other, telling ourselves about our past, about our future, about what we think in the now moment? Or are we allowing ourselves to feel what is truly being present? What is the true presence of the now moment? We're going to play with this word for a moment. For a lot of people, many people, I'm hearing a lot, allotted, there's a lot of play on words here, feel that being present is a state of mind, and we would venture to say it certainly is. Yet from another perspective, there is nothing but presence. Presence, or the gift, if you will, the present, the presentation of the now is always here now. It is always accessible for us to feel. It is us. It is for us. It is for us to feel. It is all of those things in this field, in this flow, in this gift, continuously unwrapping and opening from the flower that we are all part of. For as we unravel that which has been sequentially mapped out before us and is mapped out in front of us, we can hold a state of awareness, if you will, that is beyond the thinking process. It is beyond a particular state. It is beyond a particular way of being. It just is. And in the isness of this moment, if you will, of this present state of awareness, we are beyond moving, we are still. And yet, this stillness, this focused state of awareness and being and presence, feeling that goes beyond thinking. It allows us to feel beyond the mind, and yet allows us to be part of the mind, and allows us to feel into the thought process with a deeper state of unification. And this allows us to space out our own time, if you will, from a different state of awareness. And we are playing with this, so bear with us. For each of us is coming into a different realm, if you will. Within these realms of awareness, or levels of ascension, or levels of activation, or feeling into a more expansive version of ourselves, we become more receptive to the feeling that we are more than that which we have been told. We are more than that which we think we are. And I'm just being called to play with this for a moment, because what I'm being shown is we have this idea that of what we think presence is, but that's even changing. So it's just what they're showing me is, and I know Eckhart Tolle has talked about this, the isness, the I am, right? But what they're showing me is that it's so much more. It's hard for us to wrap our brains around our analytical thinking, around what that is, what that state of beingness is. It's just beyond words almost, yet it is the word. Word. All right, so they're playing with words here a little bit, because what they're trying to show us is we can all have a different state of awareness. And when we feel into that state of awareness, it offers up a spaciousness that moves beyond time, that moves us through time. I'm hearing lattice work. It allows us to build a more unified and harmonious structure while encased and operating within time. So the present, the ultimate state of being, is beyond our concept. And so it can only be a feeling. And I would also venture to say I'm playing with this because I know some people are like, well, it is a state of mind. Yes, it is. It is a state of being. Yes, it is. It's a way of thinking. Yes, but it's beyond all of that too. So how do we wrap our brains around something that we think we know and we think we understand, yet we're learning about it, and then we're learning about it, and then we're experiencing it. And then because our perspectives change, we experience it in a different way. So like right now, I feel very present with this isness. I feel it within me. I feel it around me. I feel a sense of spaciousness. I'm tuning into a collective energy and frequency that allows me to spell out, to expel, to share a certain language. Yet that's only one version or variety of this energy that moves through all things. So it's difficult to put into words, especially in the English language. And so this unified structure is calling to us. It is inviting us to become more unified within ourselves, to move beyond the conceptualization and therefore compartmentalization and therefore thinking add-ons that we tend to add on to the feeling of being whole, the feeling of being complete. And we are being invited to feel into that completeness more and more. This allows us to merge past, present, and future all of the time, all time. It allows us to merge into and through this portal now in time and move through the equinox. I'm hearing equinoxial events, and I'm seeing a structure of reality that is forming around us as I say this. For we are the structure that is forming reality. We are part of the structure that reality is formed from. Therefore, the more unified we feel within our own lives, within our own sense of direction, within our own willingness to move into a flow state of being with this unified expression, the more we begin to express in a more unified manner, but also reflect back to us that unification and continually present, back to the word presence, the gifts that are continuously available for us. For if we are not looking at a reflection from a higher perspective, or our reflection from a higher perspective, we are not able to fully accept and receive the gifts that are being offered through this continual state of presence. So they're showing when I I teach movement, and sometimes people have no body awareness. So when they look in the mirror, they are not seeing what other people see, and vice versa. And sometimes another person's perspective is very skewed, and they're not actually seeing a person as they really are. And I could go on and on. We're all reflections of this, of each other in essence. But we're also expressing ourselves in a unique and individual way, and that's hard to wrap our brains around. I'm just playing with this a little bit. And what I'm being shown is we're able to then see, oh, this is available to me. Oh, this is what you're really saying. Boy, I have been called back to some communication that I've been experiencing this week, and I certainly was reflected back to me many different things that I realized I was holding on to. The other person was seeing it in themselves. They were seeing it in other people around them. I was seeing it in myself. It was just this discombobulated, kind of messy uh, energy that the only way to untangle this mess or disentangle from what is perceived as chaos is to come back into the spaciousness of oneself, of being, recognizing that everything is connected, coming away from this. Well, I'm hearing polarization, but I'm seeing like the center of the pole and holding that space, that bridge that allows us to, I'm hearing, go from polarize to realize, because the polarize isn't real. That oneness, that heartfelt appreciation for life, that's real. On a bigger scale. Of course, things in the material world are real to us in this reality, but from a broader perspective, that reality is just an experience. It isn't real coming from the, it's kind of like I'm hearing life is but a dream, right? And we're realizing that this can be difficult to perceive, and we would invite you to focus on yourself. Focus on perceiving yourself, your higher self, your sense of worthiness, your sense of lightheartedness, your sense of appreciation, letting go of the need for the flair of drama, but appreciating the dramatic flair in a fun and interactive way, rather than coming from a place of lack, a distorted lens, if you will. And when we play in that way, the reflection that is offered back to us gives us a harmonious feeling, a beautiful interaction with our fellow humans, with our animal friends, with all beings who are sharing this space. For we are taking a quantum leap in this particular time period. It is the end of one period and the beginning of another. And yet, within a book, because there is a period, it does not mean it is the end of the story. It merely means it is the end of a sentence, if you will, an end of a time period or piece of time. And we invite you to find the connection points that allow us to connect to all of the versions of you that are stored within this energy soup. that are stored within the fractal of frequency and energy that is the glue that holds me and you together. So I'm being shown a lot. It's multidimensional, it's multifaceted, it's difficult to put into words, but essentially it's this lattice work of infinite structure. And the more we can begin to say, wow, what would we like to create from a place of joy, from a place of creative expression? It doesn't have to look like this line over here, that line over here, because they're connected anyways. So we can have them be I'm hearing a unique calculation, an individualized blueprint, a fingerprint that is unique, that is part of the structure of the snowflake of reality. I'm seeing this entire snowball or snow globe and so this message is one of unification and peace. It is a message to allow ourselves to find the peace within, to find the peace that is stored within the many pieces and pull those together. Allow yourself to pull into that frequency of flow, of feeling in the flow, of being part of something bigger than the human compartmentalization. For the human has been grossly underestimated. And this has caused us as humans to grossly underestimate ourselves and each other, and to expect the worst, one might say, in our fellow human. And in that, we are projecting that expression, and that is being reflected back to us. We are seeing the worst in humanity, and we are also simultaneously seeing the best in humanity, depending on how we hold our gaze, depending on what direction we look at and look within, depending on from the directional experiences that we've already created from our past that we now carry with us as we gaze on another. I'm being shown so much as I'm saying this. I'm seeing like the 8 ball that shake and you ask for its future. I'm seeing looking through a distorted lens, thinking that this is the best thing that's happening for the world because of your own experiences and belief systems, and your neighbors like this is the worst thing that could ever happen. It is, and they're both, from their perspective, correct. But from a bigger perspective, you can see both. It's like being a bird and watching these humans interact with each other. And it's like if you zoom out and you're a bird or a satellite, you can see the fences, right? So if you're in a stadium and you're having this amazing experience watching this beautiful show, you don't know what's going on outside of you. There could be a war going on all around, and you wouldn't know because you're in a bubble focused on a theater, focused on a performance, and the other stuff might, let's say there's a robbery that happens next door. That could have already been done, cleaned up. The people could have been hauled off, and you could come out of your wonderful experience never having seen that, never knowing it had happened. And it doesn't sour your view. While everybody else outside's like, how could you not know this was going on? Now, that's not a very good example. That's one example. But another example is we don't know what we don't know. I use this all the time. I remember hearing that from Cryon through Lee Carroll, and that's a whole other can of worms. So we're being invited to recognize that everyone holds distortions, including ourselves. We're being invited to recognize, though, our deeper intricacies and how we can move past what it is that we choose to see. Can we choose or opt in to choose to see more for humanity? Can we trust in our own sense of self awareness to become more aware of what's already accessible to us, to recognize what's already here, to stop tuning in to a distorted programming that is constantly being filtered through the airwaves, through the television and social media platforms and other family and friend networks that are completely plugged into I'm hearing false sense belief system. I'm being called to play with that a little bit. These systems that we're plugged into can give us I'm hearing a distorted sense of who we are, a false sense of security, but also a false sense of insecurity. It's whatever is playing out that we're tuning into is what we're tuning into. And when we harmonize with that, meaning we sync up next to it, we coordinate with it, right? We become coherent with that. It takes us out of our true present state of original coherence, which is heart state, and brings us into a disharmonious interaction that seems normal. It seems, and we follow that tune, not hearing the deeper resonance that's inside of us, that's waiting to be opened, that deeper sense of presence that's waiting to be unwrapped. And then we can feel, what is that feeling that I have? It seems like the world is falling apart, but somehow I have a deeper sense of mission or purpose, or I have a deeper sense of connecting with the earth, my fellow humans. Maybe I want to change my career, whatever it might be. I can go into so many different directions right now. So if more of us allow this unification, and I'm being shown there's like this door, and right on the other side of it is this beautiful harmonious wave pattern. Let's say the flower behind. But we're like, I keep hearing, you keep on knocking, but you can't come in. It's like, no, I don't know what that is, or they can't hear it. Some people don't even know the door is there. I've talked about this in other videos. It's inside of us. We're the technology. It's in our heart. And just because someone has a perspective about something that we don't agree with doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't mean they're not in their hearts. We're being called to feel that heart coherence and take a step back and maybe shift where we're focusing our attention and get back to nature, get back to nurture, get back to less agenda and more streamlined intelligence that's innate within us. Okay, I don't have much more time left, but I'm being called to play with this. Like, how do we do this, right, Carrie? And I think I'll do a video on that. What does that look like? And these are the questions I can hear people asking. What does that presence feel like? I don't know. I think I'm being present. So this will be part one, because there's so many different angles I could go with this. I'm being called to ask ourselves, is there possibly something here that I'm misunderstanding? Is there something positive that I can pull from this? What if things are actually going to be okay? How would that feel in my body? What if I decided to go after my true passion, which is connected to gardening, and not feel guilty that I'm not participating in world affairs just for today, just for this week? Take a few days off. Do that more often than not. Start to notice if you feel different when you do tune in to the world affairs. Once you start interacting with soil, once you start volunteering, you know, for, let's say, children who are having difficulty learning, or big brothers and sisters, or your local church, or whatever it might be. I could go into so many different angles. I have so many places I could go with that, but just start somewhere. Start with the breathing. How do I feel when I'm sitting here listening to this? Is it causing anxiety? I catch myself all the time getting to that state of going, uh-oh, I feel a little tension. Where's that coming from? Oh, I don't agree with this. Why don't I agree? Maybe they have something to share about this topic that I don't necessarily know about. Maybe I can just listen. Maybe I can just open my heart and offer space because they're so upset and stressed out. Maybe I can share something positive to focus on. Maybe I can share something positive that's happened in their life and remind them of that. I could go on and on. It's just I'm seeing like the synapses in the brain. It's just causing a quick rewiring. It's like, oh, I don't have to think about that right now. Oh, I can focus on something positive and not feel guilty about it. Oh, I could go on and on. But I would love to go into this in a little bit more detail and share some other things that might work for people. I will share from a bigger perspective to end on this note. The guides are showing me that more and more people are tuning into a unit, even people that are polarized. And it looks like people are getting farther and farther apart. I keep hearing about this two world split. We'll go into that later. I feel as if we're still sharing realities, though. So there's something really deep to feel into that. Can I share these realities from a deeper sense of who I am without needing to dictate to someone else who they are or who they aren't? Because ultimately, I bring it back to this unified field of oneness. Can I be a little less skeptical? Can I be a little less cynical? Can I be a little less judgmental? Sometimes people can't just quit all of that. But once we start to practice that, that state of inner presence and awareness makes itself known because it is the energy and spirit that moves through all things, and it's innate within all of us. And that's when the healing begins. That's when people have these magical moments or mystical moments. That's when people have these incredible miracles happen and these incredible ahas about life or about something that's really been on their hearts and on their minds that they haven't been able to get answers to. That's the flow. So we can each individually find that flow simultaneous with what's happening around us to a certain extent. And I know that that's harder for some than others. And I know that the circumstances that we experience, it can be harder sometimes because sometimes the circumstances in our lives are much more difficult than others. I just heard someone talking about the fact that they just found out their husband was diagnosed with cancer and they're in the middle of moving and they have another family member that's sick and this person is not a young um pup. They're much older than most of us. And here they are at this stage of their life having to go through all of this simultaneous to them being worried about traveling and worried about the state of the world. Yes, that's happening. Can we trust a little bit more and go back within? Maybe if we're that worried about it, we just don't travel. Maybe if we're that worried about it, we just focus on ourselves and our family. Maybe if we're that upset, we go into a state where we actually take time to meditate and do some healing work before we take that big trip. I could go on and on. It's about resetting our patterns and our habits, and therefore resetting our nervous system and causing these synapses to branch out in different directions. It's like seeking that homing beacon for new routes, for new methods of doing things, interacting. And once those synapses connect, this rewiring can begin. The new way of viewing the world and ourselves can begin. And then we might be able to take a little, I'm hearing, take a little trip with me. Who sings that song? I'm way off, I'm sure on. Anyways, I'm just seeing like it's kind of about feeling a little bit more at ease. If we can Practice feeling at ease. That's the key to unity. Feeling at ease in our body, allowing our mind to feel open and expansive, giving our friends a hug, showing our appreciation for one another, lighting up from within so we can light the way for others who are not able to find the light within. And so it is. Namaste. Thanks for tuning in, you guys.